So I struggle a lot with these economic numbers. And I've been thinking a lot also of late about this terminology that many of us, myself included, use. And that is to say, I'm socially liberal but fiscally conservative. What does that mean? I think it's a cop out, and I use it. So I'm calling myself out here as much as anybody else who's saying it. I think it's a little bit of a cop out, right? Because you're saying basically, look, I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm smart enough to be fiscally conservative. We're going to talk about what that really means. But I'm generous of spirit enough to be socially liberal. I'm not a jerk. I'm not a total jerk. Like, I just don't want to spend a lot of money on programs, but you do you. If that means you sleep with whoever you want, you marry whoever you want. I don't care if they're what color, what race. You go ahead. I'm socially liberal. But you know what? I'm going to vote for the other side because I'm fiscally conservative. And I am questioning the validity of that position because fiscal conservatism, straight up, I mean, just take the words, right? It just means be conservative with your money, right? And as a philosophy from a nationwide standpoint, it means things like don't grow a ginormous deficit. Don't spend money you don't have. That's how you grow a ginormous deficit. Don't use money for unnecessary programs. And sometimes, people look at welfare programs and such, the Social Security's, Medicare, Medicaid's, as, a gift. And maybe we should be a little more careful about that. Maybe we should look at retraining programs, or we should look at ways to get people back into the workforce, or, whatever the case may be. It also generally means, and I think this is actually where most people, why most people who say they're fiscally conservative are fiscally conservative, and it's because it generally means stop raising my taxes. You don't need to spend money on all those programs, therefore you don't need to raise my taxes. For me, I think when I say I'm fiscally conservative, I mean let's spend wisely. We can spend, and sometimes we need to spend on social programs, but we need to figure out the right way to do it. And we don't need to waste money on nonsense. And so, for example, the tax code in this country is ridiculous. And the amount of people it takes to even get your own darn taxes done, I almost cursed, is ridiculous. That should be fixed, right? I have been on unemployment in my life, okay? That system is ridiculous. Okay, have you ever been on unemployment? When you go to the unemployment office, first of all, the fact that you have to go there in person is silly. It's 2019. Now, I haven't been on it in a while. The last time I was on unemployment, the only time I was on unemployment was in 2010, I believe. And you had to go there, stand in line. There's a ton of people working. I'm not really sure what they're doing. Then you go on their piss poor computers. Can I say that on the air? Whoops, too late. And use this age-old system to fill out the information. And then you wait some more. Then you see a person, and the person is confused, generally speaking. And then they give you a portion of money that is not enough. Depending on what you were making before, I think it varies, right? Like if you get the math. But the bottom line is I was somebody who was in a corporate professional job. I was laid off / fired. And the amount of money I was given by unemployment was less than half of what I had been bringing home in my paycheck. So it's not enough to cover my bills. Then you're told that if you make any other money, you will have to give up the unemployment. That is stupid. And that to me is where fiscal conservatism should come in and save the day. That is ridiculous. If I am laid off, I should be able to collect unemployment for whatever period of time the government deems, or we all as voters deem appropriate, whether it's 6 months or 9 months or whatever it is, until I obtain a new equivalent full-time job. But any other money I make in the meantime is, by the way, just going to help me not to end up on welfare. If I can drive Uber in the meantime or work at Target part-time or whatever, Why wouldn't the country want me to do that? If I can't make the equivalent salary that I was making before, why not allow me that 6 to 9 months with partial money coming from unemployment and whatever else I can make while I'm looking for an equivalent full-time position? There's no logic there. But it's been that way forever, and nobody's fixing it. To me, as someone who says I'm fiscally conservative, that's a fix that's going to help that person, who was me at that time, not get further into debt, not get evicted, not end up in the court system for some reason, not need food stamps, not need welfare. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
And all of that would be far more long-term beneficial to the economy for you to keep your house, keep your car, keep everything else than what the 8, 9, 10 grand you'd collect from unemployment over the span of a couple months, right?
And so this is the kind of thing that gets swept under the rug and no one talks about it. And yet we still just say, well, I'm a fiscal conservative. And, right now, anybody who's calling them a fiscal conservative should be really upset because the deficit is just growing and growing and growing. That's problematic. In any case, I question that label anymore because I think many people choose to align with the Republican Party and with the right because of financial issues. But really, let's just be honest about it. What that really means is I'm either wealthy now, or I believe that I will be soon or someday. And when that happens, I don't want the government to take 70% or 50% or what I want. I don't want all that wealth I'm going to get someday to be taken by the government. That's what it means. So it's not really about the deficit. It's not really about our trade policies. It's not really about any of that. It's not really about cutting waste. It's not even really about not wanting to spend money on unnecessary programs. It's about your own taxes and wanting them to remain low. And you cannot have that value if that's it, if that's genuinely the reason. And you got to ask yourself that because I'm just telling you that's my assessment. It may not be what's true for you. But if that's really what it's about, keeping I'm air quoting my taxes low, you cannot be that and also be socially liberal. Those two things are not possible. You cannot say, I don't want to pay 1 penny more for taxes because I don't want to help anybody who needs. That's not being socially liberal. Being socially liberal includes not only what happens in the bedroom or in my body, but also what is happening to my neighbor. And so if I am unwilling to help my neighbor when they need it by paying a little extra in taxes and demanding fiscal conservatism when it relates to things like unemployment or welfare or whatever else in a way that makes sense, then I am not that label. That label is the same as going on a dating site and saying I am spiritual but not religious. It doesn't mean anything. It just means I'm going to ride the fence so you'll date me, regardless of your beliefs. That's what that means. It's what it means. And when you say you are fiscally conservative, social liberal, and again, I call myself this many times, all you're saying is, I want everyone to like me, so I'm not going to pick a side.